Hello and welcome to the first Stamp Your Stash video of 2026. This is January and our theme is Hearts and Love. If you missed my announcement, I will link my video down below. There's an introduction video on my YouTube channel where I talk about my Stamp Your Stash series for 2026. I would love for you to join in. I think anything like this is more fun with friends. So watch that video, then head over to my website at leafayhandmade.com and click the Stamp Your Stash 2026 link at the top. There's a place where you can put your name and email address, and that just says that you're planning on participating, that you want to join in on the fun. It's not obligating you to anything. You're not paying for anything. This is totally free. I will be able then to email you some resources, some idea sheets, some different things like that, and then anybody that's participating that has signed up will go into a drawing throughout the year for some different little gifts and prizes. So head over there if you're interested in stamping your stash. So in this video, what I'm going to do, this is, like I said, it's Hearts and Love is our theme. So I'm going to show you the stamp sets that I pulled out of my stash that are very old, that maybe I haven't used in a long time. I needed to dust them off and use them again. I'm going to show you the stamp sets, the projects that I made from them, and then at the end we're going to create one project together. Hopefully I'm able to give you a few ideas so that if you have some of those older stamp sets or even newer ones in your craft room, that you'll be able to pull them out and maybe make some new cards and paper projects with them. So let's get started. So the first stamp set I used with this was this P.S. I Love You, and this was from Stampin' Up. I believe it's probably about 15 years old or so. I honestly didn't even look up the age of this, but it's been in my stamp stash for quite a while, and I can honestly say I've maybe only used one stamp prior to this out of this set. Some of them I really wasn't sure what to do with, but once I pulled this out again, I'm like, man, now all these years later, I had some new ideas, some fresh ideas, and I made several projects using this stamp set. So let's get started here with the first one. I made this little card. I used this stamp here that's a heart made out of a bunch of hearts. I'll try to bring this up a little closer. So my focal heart was stamped in real red, and then I used the heart-shaped punch. I'll grab that. That's also from Stampin' Up. Once I realized I had that in my stash, it was actually helpful for several of my projects that I created. So I punched out just a white heart in the same shape, and I colored it with Wink of Stella. It might be a little hard to see there. We can kind of see that glimmer on there. And then in the background here, I used some Creative Memories punches that I have and punched out a bunch of different sizes of hearts and then ran them through an embossing folder, kind of that little polka dot or Swiss dot, I think it's called, folder, just to give it a little texture. I arranged them on my background paper, glued them all down, and trimmed the edges. And then I did splatter some Wink of Stella all over the background just to give it some shine and shimmer. And then I put a little bit of red and white baker's twine behind this front heart. I have it on a real red panel, and I honestly haven't even put it onto a card base yet, but I will do that. I'll probably keep it a little bit smaller card. And this could be used for anniversary, Valentine's Day coming up next month, just, an appreciation, a thank you, I really appreciate you kind of a thing. So could be used for a lot of things. And my next card is this little one. I used this heart-shaped chocolate dipped strawberry out of this same set, and I just repeat stamped that. I colored it with markers and used that for stamping. I'll also link that video down below. I just did a stamping techniques video on stamping with markers. So I used 3 different colors of markers to color the stamp it out, and then I used the Stylish Shapes dies. That's this set right here. I used the second to the smallest size die to cut all 9 of those circles out. That's kind of what fit the best around that strawberry. And then I used the little Love You sentiment from the same set. Oh, got a glare. Used Love You and put it on that 9th circle. My white panel in the back here, I did use an embossing folder, and then I just put it onto a red card base. I'll probably put a white panel on the inside so I can write on it. And this is a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 size card. And then I used my envelope punch board and created a matching envelope. We're going to decorate an envelope also at the end of this video when I create the other cards. So I'll show you kind of how I did that so that I got the matching color on the flap. Okay. All right, and still with the same stamp set here, I made a little a gift card holder. You can fit a little, any kind of gift card in there. I again used that little love you stamp. And just real simple, I stacked up this Sent with Love on February 14th, and then this circle of hearts around the outside, and used a circle punch to punch that out. I used from the Perennial Postage die set, I used this kind of long, narrow one that has just the little postage cut at the ends. And I actually cut that in half and put half over here and half over here, and I stamped it. It's a basic gray piece of cardstock, and I stamped it with this little row of hearts. So just gave a little detail to that and just put a little piece of Designer Series polka dot paper on the back there. Made kind of a cute little gift card holder. And then again, I made an envelope with the envelope punch board. Just did a little bit of line detailing, and then used one of those Creative Memories heart punches for here, kind of on the seal. And then this stamp here, we're going to use that later also, but that is out of this Sent with Love set from Stampin' Up. And it's this one right here. The little airplane with the cute little trail behind it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, now I think we can move on from this stamp set to Cute as a Bug. Does anybody remember this? This one's from 2003, and I bought this, and I don't know that I actually ever used it, but these bugs are so cute. And I saw this little spider holding the heart up, and I thought, okay, I have to do something with that. That makes me think of, you know, a cute little Valentine or something like that. So what I did was I made this little treat holder. It's a double pouch treat holder. If you want to know how to do this, there's a lot of videos out on YouTube. It's very simple. You basically use a 6x6 sheet of paper. You score it in a few places and fold it up, and then just tie it at the top. There isn't even any adhesive holding it together. So if anybody's interested, I can do a video on this. Just let me know down below if you want to see how this is done. But I think it just turns out so cute. I have one of these little Ferrero Rocher squares on the one side. A little tea bag fits in here, and then I also tucked in one of these little instant Starbucks coffees. And I used a big circle punch to punch the circle out. I stamped my little spider, colored in the heart. I have a stencil from Tailored Expressions where I just stenciled the hearts in the background. And then this Be My Valentine actually came from the Share a Milkshake, I think it's called. Kind of a little bit newer set, but it is now retired from Stampin' Up. But I really liked that font, so I used that. That'll fit on there pretty nicely. And quick little treat that you could hand out to coworkers or friends, or, you know, little random acts of kindness. Give it to a server, or, you know, go into the post office and give it to a postal worker or something like that, to thank them. So there's that. And let's see, my last one, well, I have two more I'm going to share. I used Loads of Love. I think probably lots of people had that. This is copyright 2004, so, you know, I've had that one for quite a while too, and I think this is still absolutely adorable. I love this little truck. So with that, I made a little happy birthday card, and then this is actually a fun fold card. So watch the magic. Opens up like that. It says Loads of Love. I stamped the little tree, and I stamped some of these little hearts kind of off the edge just to make a little pile in there. I got this idea from Dawn Stamping Thoughts on YouTube, so go check out her channel. And I think that turned out pretty cute, but I thought that was kind of a fun way. I was going to make this into a Valentine, but I've already made several Valentine cards, and I know that I have some birthdays coming up, so I thought that would be kind of cute to do with this one. Okay, and then last but not least, I have this card. Now we're going to go back to this set. I used this heart to color, well, I stamped it in pink and then used that heart-shaped punch to punch out the heart. And then I grabbed some designer series paper. These are old papers from Stampin' Up. Who remembers those 12 by 12 big pads of paper that we used to get? And you tear the sheets out of them. They had all the colors in the color family in them. I loved those things, and I still have tons of them actually, so that this worked out perfect. I grabbed a striped one and a polka dot one that all matched, and I cut them with this heart-shaped punch. And then this little Be My Valentine actually also came from this P.S. I Love You. I used the little frame or bracket stamp and then stamped the Be My Valentine inside of it. And then punched it out with this punch, and that matches perfectly with that. So definitely pulling out of my stash. These are all retired products, things that I've had for a lot of years and just maybe have never used or hardly used. So it was really fun to be able to, pull some of these things out and make new things. I had a blast. I really hope that you guys will join in and pull some things, some old sets out of your stash and play along. Now, before we go, I am going to remake this card, but I'm going to do it in a red theme, and I'm going to use a little bit different stamp here. So let me clear this stuff off and we'll get started on that. All right, so for the card we're going to create together today, I am using this set called Punch Potpourri. This was a hostess set. And this one doesn't have a year on it, so I'm not entirely sure when this was from, but it was still back on the wood blocks, so a little bit older. And this heart punch does match this heart stamp that we're going to be using. So let me grab that out of here. And this has some really cool detail. It's, kind of that type, kind of worn type in the back with a little bit of a flower detail over the top of it. So we are going to start out by stamping it, in real red. So again, we're recreating this card, but in a red theme, just so that I have a little variety of cards. Okay, and then I'll use that punch to punch it out. Let's see here, get that lined up. All right, we are done with this, so I'll get that out of the way so I don't put my hand in it. And then the only other two little details for the front here, well, besides the sentiment, I am bringing in some of that designer series paper that I was talking about from Stampin' Up, those old sheets that those pads that used to come, where you tear the papers out of the pads. You can see it says Stampin' Up there on the corner. These have just come in so handy. So I'm going to punch one from that and one from the stripes. All right, and then we're going to stamp our sentiment, and I'm using basic gray for that. And let's see, I think I'm going to stamp the frame first. Let's try it. If it doesn't work, I'm going to stamp the sentiment first. I can't remember what I did before. So, and these aren't clear stamps, so they're just a little bit harder to see if you're getting them actually lined up. So I'm gonna probably stick my head in the camera, but just wanna try to get it straight. There we go. First try, got it pretty straight. So now I'll use that matching punch to punch this out. I'm kind of excited that I rediscovered these in my stash, because I feel like this little bracket outline and this punch will be really nice to use for other sentiments that I have, just kind of everyday sentiments. So that'll be kind of fun to play with. Okay, so here's the next few pieces. I did do a little preparing before we started. I have a card base, and this is just smaller than an A2 size. So the finished size is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I did that because I used the largest die from the perennial postage. And I just like how that gives it a little bit smaller white border when I put this basic gray panel on. Otherwise, it would be a little bit bigger white border around there. And I wanted my card just a little smaller. So I'm going to adhere this basic gray panel directly onto my card front. Okay, then we'll put this little piece of designer series paper directly onto that basic gray panel. This again is from one of those paper pads in the gray colorway. Just get that centered on there. And then I have this, this was the largest circle from the Stylish Shapes dies, and I cut this out of basic gray. I trimmed between 1/4 and 1/2 inch off the side, and then ran it through with the Timeless Plaid embossing folder. And just to give it a little bit of texture, I am again gonna just adhere that straight down. And what I'm going to do is kind of center it top to bottom, but butt it right up against the edge of the designer series paper so that it kind of flows right into that back panel. All right, and then we can start building that background. So I'm first going to take my polka dot heart. That's going to go flat. Oop, ran right off the edge there. Before I started adhering my hearts down, I do want to just show you one thing that I did. I don't know if you can tell on this pink one, the edges of these designer series paper hearts are just slightly wore. They're a little bit white around the edge, and I did that on purpose because my heart-shaped punch, for some reason, up in this corner has a little bit of a jaggedy edge, and when it punches, it does not punch clean. It's harder to tell on the white, so I'm not too worried about that, and I could leave it. Nobody would even really know, but I thought, well, I could kind of disguise that if with these being white core pieces of paper, if you do some distressing or sandpaper, it'll expose that white core. So I have this little, one of these little handles. You can put those brush, you know, the foam brushes on for ink blending. There are little sandpaper discs that you can buy. I got these, I believe, from scrapbook.com, and it's just regular sandpaper. So just go out and, you know, go to your garage or wherever you keep that kind of thing, or maybe go to the hardware store if you have to, buy a little sandpaper, or if you want to order these, they fit directly on here. But anyway, I took the little bit of sandpaper and just kind of went right around the edges. Just roughed up those edges just a bit, just so that that little rough edge, little rough area there, just kind of blended in with all the rest. Okay, now we'll put this down. I still have the adhesive on here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that right there. The next one I am going to pop up on foam squares or dimensionals. And I really don't need 3, but I'll go ahead and use 3 anyway. Get the back off. There we go. And I'm just kind of staggering these, you know, top to bottom, kind of, you know, angling them back and forth just a little. I have this one a little more angled than I really want. Gonna just straighten that out a tad so that I can go more to the left with this one. Okay. And then the last one, I'm again going to do a little distressing around the edge. Just gives a cute little white edge around there. And then I am going to put a little bit of foam adhesive along this right side and a little tape runner on the left. And that's because that other square is already popped up, or other heart, excuse me, not square. And this will adhere right to the front of that one. And now they'll all be at the same level. Okay, and then I think I did put the sentiment up on dimensionals as well, so I'm going to grab my mini dimensionals for that. And I'm going to put 3 across there. And I have a little bit of this silver cord. I'm not even sure where I got it, but it's been in my drawer with all my ribbons and stash for quite some time. And I just made a little bow out of it. So I'm gonna have it at the top of the sentiment, but have this one tail kind of coming out between a couple of those dimensionals down here. And then we'll just kind of position that right about there. And I'll trim my tails. One thing I did do, I think too, is put a little bit of glue dot behind that bow. So I'm gonna just grab a glue dot and sneak it back there. There we go. That'll help hold that bow a little bit better. And that's our card. So quick and easy, just a little bit of stamping and using some punches, and it just comes together. I think that looks so cute. That'll be fun to send out for Valentine's Day. Now, like I said, I am going to decorate an envelope as well to show you how I do that, in case you've never seen that before. So we're going to put some paper on the back flap. And I think I am going to use the polka dot. I just think dots are pretty cute. So I'm going to actually trim this down a little bit so I don't have so much to deal with. And then I'm going to do a little bit of stamping on that back of that envelope as well. Okay, so I think the first thing I'll do is get this little airplane with the heart stamped. And I'm going to show you the technique of stamping with markers. This is the technique video that I shared this month, just a few days ago. Showed how you do this. So if you have a stamp like this that has a couple different components that you maybe want to be different colored, you could kind of mask them off. This would be a stamp that would be pretty easy to mask off the different areas. Or you can use your water-based markers to color directly onto your stamp. So I just used a gray marker, basic gray, to color that airplane. I hope it's not totally glaring. And then I'm going to use this Tombow marker because I don't have a really nice red of the Stampin' Up water-based markers. So I'm using this Tombow one to just color right over that trail. And then you have to huff on it. So, and then you can stamp it directly on your cardstock or envelope. And you get a cute little stamp right onto your envelope there. Okay, and then to decorate this back flap, a lot of people use glue. I've used glue and that works perfectly fine, but I'm going to use a tape runner today. And you just cover your surface of that flap, the outside surface, with your adhesive, whatever you're using. And then put your designer series paper right up to where it folds. Try not to go over the fold, of course, because you don't want to interfere with that. Press it down and then just flip it over and trim off the excess. And it's easy to get it trimmed nice because it's all pretty much straight edges to trim around. Well, all right. And there we go. There's our cute little matching decorated envelope to go along with our Valentine card. So thank you so much for joining me for this Stamp Your Stash video for January 2026. I really hope that you decide to play along and dig through your stash and use some of those products and supplies that you have and show them some love, breathe some new life into them. If you do decide to participate, I would love to see what you're creating. Share it on Instagram and Facebook and tag me at Leah Faye Handmade. I hope you have a great rest of your day and thanks for watching.